I was lucky enough to get the chance to play Nightingale early. Since this is my first time actually having any hands-on time with the game, I wanted to share my first impressions and discuss my experience with Nightingale. Before I really get into it, I do want to disclaim that this was an older version of the game. From my understanding, this version was about a month old, so a lot of the issues and bugs I ran into may have already been fixed. I've put around 8 to 10 hours into the game. In this video, I'll touch on the first boss you'll encounter. I will, however, include a spoiler warning before I show anything of it in case you're trying to avoid seeing it. Starting off with the character creation is pretty good. It's not the most in-depth character creator I've seen, but it also doesn't really need to be. Even though this game supports both first and third person, I doubt most players will play in third person. I did try out third person for a moment, but quickly found out that this game just felt weird in third person. The game definitely feels like it was designed for first person. This could just be my personal preference, but I do feel it's worth noting if you're someone who enjoys playing survival games in third person more than first. After we create our character, we're plunged into the game, and right off the bat, this game's audio design is outstanding. The ambience of the wilderness surrounding you feels so relaxing until you come across a monster that just from hearing makes you begin to worry about the threat that's around you. The game does a great job at making you feel immersed in the world through audio alone. I only came across one character that had dialogue that was fully voice acted, and from this character, who was supposed to be your guide throughout a lot of the game, the voice acting was very solid. Again, audio in this game was great, and it even extends to the limited amount of voice acting I heard. I do hope that eventually every character you come across is voice acted, and it may already be, but in this current version, I only came across the one character who had actual lines. Moving on to exploration, seeing as to how this is a survival game, exploration is something that could make or break the game. If the game doesn't do a very good job at making you think, I wonder what's over there, then it's gonna have some problems. I will say, this game does a pretty good job at making you want to explore. You'll see a structure in the distance, go to it, and there's usually something to do there. The map is fairly small, however, that's where a main component of the game comes in, where you use portals to travel to new realms that you can influence how it will be. I will say now that this is such a cool idea and it plays really well in this game. You can craft realm cards which allow you to change the outcome of the next realm you go to, or even the one that you're currently in. For example, some of the cards could be something like making the sun never set so it's always day, or the opposite where the sun never rises so it's always night. You can make the realms have more and harder enemies, or even no enemies at all. There's cards for improving loot dropped from enemies or increasing the amount of items you get from chests scattered around the map. There are already a ton of different realm cards, and I'd love to see this expanded on even more. Even though the maps are small, the fact that you can go from one realm to the next kind of makes up for it because it makes the sense of exploration feel much more endless. Nightingale is already doing so many things right, but I also noticed a few things that mostly just need improved and not completely reworked. So after giving the game a ton of praise, let me move on to some of the things I personally feel need some extra work. I will say I am about to go over the first boss fight and show an example of what I encountered. So if you're trying to avoid seeing the first boss, here is your spoiler warning. Skip to the time on screen to avoid it. Starting with the AI, it needs to be improved really badly. Enemies are way too easy to break and get them to a point where they just don't know what to do to attack you. For example, in the first boss fight I had, I just walked in a circle the entire fight and occasionally would turn around to shoot the boss. After I shot, I'd go back to running in a circle while reloading. This strategy ended up with me not getting hit once. Honestly, I had a harder time getting to the boss rather than fighting it. It doesn't need to be on the level of a Souls-like game, but it also doesn't need to be so easy where I can literally just run in a circle the entire fight and not get hit at all. Companions are a bit too dumb as well. I think having companions that do stuff for you, like resource gathering, in survival games especially, is a good idea, and I hope more and more games implement this. However, the companions in this build of the game were more like bait for the already dumb enemies than they were of any actual use. I do also wish that we could command companions to do things around the base, or in this game it's called your estate. The amount of times my companion just kind of stood around with nothing to do instead of gathering wood or plant fiber or mining made them feel more like a portable backpack that became pretty useless when I was actually back at base. Combat was a little strange. Sometimes it feels really good and other times it feels a little clunky. Landing a headshot with a melee attack is really satisfying, but other than that, something just kind of feels off with the combat. It could just be from how dumb the AI is, but the combat isn't horrible by any means either. I'm sure this is something that could be fine-tuned and made better with a few updates. From my first impressions, Nightingale is shaping up to be an amazing game. While the game isn't perfect and still needs some love on certain aspects, there wasn't any point in the game where I straight up just didn't like something. All of the issues I had are things that can most likely be fixed in patches and updates. I'm definitely looking forward to checking this game out more, and once I'm able to get some more time in on it, I'll definitely be giving a more thorough review on it. If you like survival games, I recommend keeping your eye on Nightingale. At the moment, it's currently scheduled to release into early access on February 20th, and I couldn't be more excited to play this game more. Huge thank you to Inflexion Games for allowing me to get early access to the game so that way I can make this video. I can't wait to see the direction that Nightingale Nightingale goes in.
The realm walkers are all that is left.